Asmat Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Parama Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Sarva Gurubhyo Namaha. So we had a question once again about installation of the deity. We have two types of deities. We have the deity which is Chala and the deity which is Achala. So the Achala deity, or the fixed deity, which is installed once and is cemented to, usually a stone deity, which is cemented to the Pitam, and that deity is installed permanently. And then we have, according to Lord Krishna in the 11th canto, 27th chapter of the Bhagavatam, he explains that there's also a Chala deity, or a movable deity, and that deity is installed temporarily. So what do we mean by installation? First of all, the first thing that we mean by installation is the word pratishta means to make to stand. Like tista, in the verb in Sanskrit is tistati, he stands. So to make to stand. Pratishta means to make the deity stand on the altar. So that's a very common term. And we translate it as installation, installing the deity, putting him there. Now, what does it mean? In terms of God, God is everywhere. He is, we talk about vyapaka or vyapti. We talk about vyapti. He is all pervasive. He's all pervasive. He's everywhere. So he is within everything. He's within, he's even within every atom. He's so if he's within every atom, he's certainly within the atoms of any form that we make, right? But specifically, the forms that are described in the scriptures are the ones which he agrees to accept our worship through. So there are many forms. That's also described in the 11th canto, 27th chapter, Lord Krishna's instructions on deity worship in the Bhagavatam. And so he says, for instance, the jewel, the mind, water, a painting, a picture. There are different forms of the deity. There are different forms. It can be made of earth. I gave a story about Ramanuja, about Ramanuja's life, where there were some children in Sri Rangam who were making a deity with the sand in the street. There were sandy streets, and they made a deity out of sand, and they were offering sand prasadam to the deity, or sand bhoga to the deity, and then they were trying to give it to people who were passing by, saying, please take this prasadam of our deity. And Ramanuja prostrated before the deity, and the children were giving him sand prasadam. He took a little bit of the sand prasadam and ate it. So according to the mentality of the children, they were worshiping the Lord in that form. And so if a person has great devotion for God, then God will appear in in so many different forms. Even according to the will or the devotion of the devatas, the Lord is incarnating as Rama and Narasimha, Krishna, whatever. So different avatars, Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, they're all coming because of the intense devotion of a particular devotee. Krishna always says, I am there where my devotees are, wherever my devotees are, I go there. So the Lord manifests, he's all pervading, but how does he manifest and relate to us? So the scriptures that speak about how to worship the Lord, especially in the iconic forms meaning the deities seemingly made of stone or metal or wood, is what we're used to. These deities, how to install them and how to invoke the God's life in them to reciprocate with us, that is normally called prana pratishta. Prana means life force, and pratishta means to establish the life force. So there are different ways that people do it. If people are very have a lot of love for God, then God will manifest no matter what sort of ritual they do. But in the scriptures themselves, the Pancharatra and other Vaisnava agamas, like Vaikanasa agamas, there are specific procedures for installing specific forms of the Lord. So for instance, if you want to worship a deity in a pot of water, yes, you can worship the deity in water. You can invoke the Lord in the water, because the Lord's already in the water, but you can invoke him in the water and you can relate to him. You can offer him services and receive benedictions from him in the water of the pot, or in a mandala, or in the fire, or in an iconic form made of stone or wood or metal, right? And there are different procedures for each one of these. With that, so what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about some of these different procedures. So what we like to do is, when we learn things, we like to learn simple things first and then more complicated things. If we want to do things in a more complex way, we will build upon our knowledge of learning how to do them in a simple way. The simplest way to call God and to worship God in any form is to have, and the best way, of course, is to have great love and devotion for God, and to just meditate. Please, Lord, come here. Please accept this. Please accept this this offering that I'm offering to you. You're here somewhere, wherever you are. Sometimes in the past, we had devotees doing this thing, just calling the name of God and expecting, oh Krishna, please accept this food, or like that. Even there's no physical deity around, or some people will say even Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu, call the name of the Lord 3 times and expect him to accept some offering that we're offering to him, and then take it as his prasadam, like that. So is that acceptable? Sure, of course that's acceptable, because that's an acceptable way of calling God, and offering something to God and accepting him to reciprocate and take that offering. Because what he's not maybe taking the offering physically, right? We make a big plate of bhoga and say Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu, and expect it to disappear. But he's accepting the love and devotion, as he says in the Bhagavad Gita. If you offer to me a fruit, a flower, leaf, and water, I'll accept it. He doesn't say exactly how to do it, right? He doesn't say exactly how to offer to him, right? But he says with love and devotion. So that's the first thing. First thing we always have to remember, it's always with love and devotion. So whatever ritual we decide to perform, we should do it with the mentality. Then what does that mean, love and devotion? It means that our mind we have to be conscious of what we're doing, and we have to do it for the right motive. Not that we should be thinking something else. We should be thinking of what we're doing. So if you want to be, probably used to say, if you want to be Krishna conscious first, you have to be conscious. So you have to be conscious. What does it mean to be Krishna conscious? You have to be conscious of Krishna. So you have to think about. So this is the most important thing in deity worship. The most important thing in the worship of God is what you're thinking, your mentality, what's in your heart. I mean, we equate the heart and the mind. Usually in the Vedic texts, we equate the heart and the mind. Okay, so having said that, there are some ritual forms that we can use from the scriptures that go along with that feeling of love and devotion, that we want to serve God through a particular form and reciprocate with him in a particular form. What are they? So, as I said, obviously calling his name or chanting his mantra, his mula mantra. Mula means root, the root mantra for any particular deity. When we worship Vishnu, we'll say Om Namo Narayana. When we worship Lakshmi, we'll say Shrim Shriye Namaha. When we worship Krishna, Shrim Krishnaya Namaha. Or Gopal Shrim Krishnaya Govindaya Gopijana Vallabhaya Swaha, the Gopala mantra. Or we will say for Radha, we may have Shrim Ram Radhikaye Swaha. We have these mantras which are primarily the name of the deity, the name of God, or his divine consort, right? Or some other devata, the name of that person. And primarily it's the name of that person in the dative case in Sanskrit, which is called Chaturthi Vibhakti, which means unto Krishna, unto Radha, right? Namaha meaning not me, but you, obeisances unto you. And starting with some either bija mantra, which means a seed of the name. The seed of the name Radha is Ram. Radha, Ram, right? The seed of the name Krishna is Klim, right? So there are many seed mantras, or just simply starting with a general bija mantra like Om, Omkar. Omkar is a transcendental syllable. And you can start any mantra with, so Hari Bhakti Vilas, written by Sanatana Goswami and Gopalbhata Goswami, specifically on the order of Lord Chaitanya, for explaining some of these rituals, explains that if you don't have a particular mantra for a particular deity, you can take the name of the deity, put it in the dative case, add namaha, and add om to the beginning of it. So om Vishvaksenaya namaha, to worship Vishvaksena. Vishvaksena in dative case, Vishvaksenaya, add namaha, and put in the beginning om Vishvaksenaya namaha. If you wanted to make if you didn't want to use om, if you wanted to be more specific and have a bija mantra specifically for Vishvaksena, if there is one, there may be one in Mantra Shastra, another one, or you can simply take, according to Mantra Shastra, take the first syllable of the name, and you can add Anushwara, which is that M with a dot under or above, pure nasal sound, to the first syllable. So Vishvaksenaya, Vishvaksena becomes Vishvaksenaya namaha, and then vi added to the vi in Vishvaksena, the vi added to m becomes vim Vishvaksenaya namaha. Vim becomes the bija mantra, like that. So this is a way of constructing mula mantras when you don't have one. That there's a whole process given in the second chapter of Hari Bhakti Vilas about how to use a new mantra for a particular deity, and so you can go through that. That's a little bit more complicated, but anyway, the simple way is to know. Excuse me, my throat's getting a little dry. The simple way is to have love and devotion for that particular deity, to meditate upon that particular deity, and to call that particular deity by calling his name. Now, sometimes you call the name, like with the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, that's all in vocative case. Oh Krishna, oh Hare, oh Rama. It's in the vocative case. It's not Krishnaya, Ramaya, Hare. It's Krishna, Rama, Hare, right? Hare. So that can also be done. You could say Krishna, Achyuta, Narayana, right? Radha, hey Radhe, hey Radhe, that's vocative, like that. If you have a lot of, but in the worship of a deity, the fourth case ending, the dative case, is preferred. So instead of saying hey Radhe, the same effect is there. It means oh Radha. Right, but my respects to Radha would be Radhikayai namaha, Radhikayai namaha, like that. Okay, I guess I'll edit that out. Yeah. So what was I saying? So this is the way a mula mantra is made. So first, the important thing with worshiping any deity is to know the basic mantra of the deity. There are other mantras we can know also. There are more complex mantras. So the bija mantra and the mula mantra are important for the deity. We know that particular mantra. If we use that mantra, or just if we don't know the mantra, just the name of the deity, we can call the deity with love and devotion to come and reciprocate with us through a particular form. Now, normally when we have an iconic form which is installed, we go through a whole complex procedure of purifying that form so it becomes a pure receptacle for the Lord to enter and reciprocate with us through. So that is called an installation ceremony. That's a complex ceremony. We won't go into that today. We've gone into that some other times. But what we want to deal with is after that's done, right, to a permanent deity, then there's no need to call and send the deity or to ask the Lord to come and accept worship through it. He's there, and he's permanently there. But if he's not there permanently, temporarily there, right? In the sense with a movable deity, a smaller deity made of wood or metal, right? Except for a shalagrama, which is another point, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Then we have to do what is called Avahanam and Visarjanam. And the Vaishnavas, Avahanam means calling the deity calling his attention and calling him to come and calling to his attention, please accept this offering that I'm going to offer to you and give me the benediction of offering that. And Visarjana means letting him leave, right? Because we don't want to take up all of his time. He's being served in Vaikuntha, he's being served in Goloka by all of his eternal associates. So we just want to borrow him for some time. And we also want to offer our service to him like that. The Sri Vaishnavas have a prayer. Savyam Padam Prasadya. Kurmadin Divyalokam Tadumanimayam. Kurmadin Divyalokam Tadumanimayam. Anyway, it goes on. So he talks about all these eternal associates to the Lord in Vaikuntha. They're all worshipping the Lord and praying to them, please let us worship him for a few minutes, and then we'll hand him back to you. You know, you guys, you can continue worshiping him eternally. So this is the mentality that we have that the Lord is eternally being worshipped by his consort and his parivara, his family and his attendants, and that we want to be part of that, those attendants. We also want to offer service. So we want to get a chance to do that. Okay, so how do we do that after the installation of the movable deity is done? How do we actually do that? Right. So first thing, if we just have love and devotion, we can just do it like that. We can expect him to reciprocate. If we're not sure too much about our love and devotion, then we also should try to follow the prescriptions given in the scriptures. Even if we have love and devotion, we should probably follow those prescriptions given in the scriptures, specifically Pancharatra scriptures, which is the system of worship that we're following. If we're following some other agamas for worship of Shiva or Shakti or Shaiva agamas, Shakta agamas, or if we're following Vaikanasa agama when we're different types of Vaishnava agamas, right? That's a different thing, but we're talking about in a Pancharatric way. How do we do that? Now, in a Pancharatric way, there will be different ways also in the temple and in the house. So we're not going to also talk about the complex way that people invoke a movable deity in the temple, because that's a more complex thing. So as we said, let's talk about from more simple, getting more simple to more complex. So again, the simplest way to do it is to just meditate and think God's there and he's accepting. Then call his name, use his Mula mantra. These are also simple ways. Sometimes we see many pujas are done like that. We'll have a pod or we'll have a deity of Vishvaksena or Ganesh or something like that, and we'll simply say, whatever the name of the deity is, Avahayami, Stapayami, please come, please stay, and be here, reestablished here while I worship you. And at the end of the puja, we may valedict them. We may do the Visarjana, which literally means allowing them to go about their business, about whatever their eternal pastimes are. Go back to doing what you were doing. Please excuse me, I wanted to worship you, and now please go back. Where we say, Sri Vishvaksenaya Yatastanam Pratistapayami, which means Yatastanam, this place, Pratistapayami, you please, you can go, you're established in this place, or be established in this place. Gunaya Agamanaya Cha, please also feel like you can also come again next time we call you. So be free to go and be established in another place, and come back again when we call you to come another time. So that's nice. So how do we do it? How do we do it in a very simple way? So that's the first way. So for instance, when we're doing Vishvaksena Puja, just to give an example of Vishvaksena Puja, right? Because most Vaishnavas, they'll worship Vishvaksena. Some of them will worship Ganesh also, but for those people who are not worshiping Ganesh, Vishvaksena, Lord Vishnu's commander-in-chief of his army, his secretary, clears away obstacles in the worship of Lord Vishnu. It's a preliminary puja. So we would say, Om Bhur Vishvakshenam Avahyami, Om Bhuva Vishvakshenam Avahyami, Om Suva Vishvakshenam Avahyami, Om Bhur Bhava Suva Vishvakshenam Avahyami. Right there, we're calling. If we wanted to do it simply, we just say, Shri Vishvaksenaya Namaha, Om Vim Vishvaksenaya Namaha, Avahyami. We want to add to that, we can say Avahyami Stapayami. If we want to add to that, we might add some more things. So we'll look at what I've written. There's a small thing that I've written. It'll explain some more things like that in more detail from different sources about how to do things in a more complex way. So Vishvaksena, we just Avahayam Isapayam. Some people then would do Ombur Vishvakshenam Avahayam, Bhuva Vishvakshenam Avahayam, Sva Vishvakshenam Avahayam, Ombur, you know, wherever you are, if you're in the lower planetary systems, the upper planetary systems, or wherever you are, Bhurbhavasubaha, please come. Like that. That may be appropriate for some deities, that may not be appropriate for some other deities. And also with Sriman Narayana, we may be thinking if we invoke Sriman Narayana or Krishna or Rama or Balarama or any form, any Vishnu form, any of the avatars like that, we might be thinking of them as expanding from within our heart and entering to the deity, or in the temple we think of them expanding from the main permanent deity into the movable utsava or festival deity, the movable processional deity. But of course, we're not talking about the temple here. We also don't have to do this if we have a shalagrama. We have a self-manifesting deity, or we have a salagrama or a Govardhan Shila or a Dwarka Shila, any of these self-manifest forms of the Lord, which do not need installation. They are naturally forms of the Lord. They can be worshipped. And for those persons who are worshipping deities of Shiva or Shakti, in the system of Panchopasana, there are some similar rocks and items that are considered self-manifest forms of other devatas, like Shiva and Shakti and Ganesha. So for instance, a Banalingam for Shiva or anyway. So we have also the Dwarka Shila from Dwarka. We have the Govardhan rock from Vrindavan, from the rock, hill of Govardhan. And there might also be some other rocks from different places which are considered to be manifestations of different deities according to Puranic texts. Like the three mountains in Vrindavan are considered to be Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Nandagram, Varsana, and Govardhan. So I believe Nandagram is considered to be Shiva, Varsana is considered to be Brahma, and Govardhan Vishnu, of course. So, but then again, some people worship what we call tadiya. There are some other Shila items that come from different places, and they call them tadiya. The word tadiya in Sanskrit means of him. They're of him. They belong to him. They're his paraphernalia. So just like we might have a great acharya like Srila Prabhupada, and he had a cane and he had a spectacles or he had a book or something like that belonged to him. And so we keep that thing as very precious to us because it was used or belonged to the guru or to someone in our guru parampara or some great saint. And for instance, for Sri Vaishnavas, the Tirupuli Alvar, the tamarind tree under which Nam Alvar appeared, the tree itself is considered to be holy because, why? Because the great Alvar, the great devotee of the Lord, sat underneath it. So like that. So, but these things are not considered to be exactly the same as the Lord. They're not the tadiya. So somebody may bring a stone from a Hobalam or even a stone from Varsana, for instance, and say, can we worship this as being, since Radha was in Varsana, so therefore, if we bring a stone from Varsana, we always think of Radha. If we bring a stone from a Hobalam, we think of Lord Narasimha. That's fine. You can think of them, and this tadiya can be worshipped in the same way that we have prasadam. Prasadam is something which is offered to the Lord. It becomes non-different from the Lord because of being accepted from him. But then we eat it. So we don't normally eat. We don't try to eat the deity, right? But we say that the prasadam is non-different from the deity. But yes, we offer it and we honor it in a particular way by eating it. So the same thing with if we say that prasadam is non-different from the Lord, but we don't offer ritualistic puja to the prasadam. In other words, we offer bhoga to the prasadam. Think the prasadam is non-different from the Lord, and then offer worship to the Lord in the form of prasadam by offering prasadam to the prasadam. would be redundant, a little bit redundant, and a little bit. That's not the way to worship prasadam. The way to worship prasadam is to very reverentially honor it by taking it, and those remnants of it have to be properly disposed of, just like in the same way as if the deity itself gets damaged or some way, it needs to be disposed of in a proper way. That's covered in Hari Bhakti Vilas in the end of the 19th Vilas. The 19th Vilas of Hari Bhakti Vilas deals with installation. The Pancharatra Agamas also deal with installation. That's one of 4 subject matters that are covered in Pancharatra: Jnana, Yoga, Kriya, and Charya. So Kriya, Jnana, of course, is knowledge about reality. Yoga is mystic yoga, so, maybe dealing with the chakras and kundalinis and different things. And Kriya, Kriya is the activities of making a temple, making a deity, and up to the point of installation of the deity. And then Charya is everything after the installation of the deity: daily worship, occasional worship, festivals, brahmotsavas, different types of things. Reinstallation, which is also called Jirna Pratishta, if something happens, and any atonements for any offenses, different sorts of festivals and observances. Okay, so those are the 4 basic. Every Pancharatra Samhita is divided into that. So normally these days, those persons following Pancharatra follow for any particular temple, there's a particular set of Samhitas which they follow. So there are 3 gems of the Pancharatra which are followed in the 3 temples: Kanchipuram, Srirangam, and Melkote. And they also use 3 specific mantras. 3 of the Vyapaka mantras. Sri Vaishnavas will know what those are. But in other temples and specifically in new temples, they usually the text that's used is the Padma Samhita, because it covers everything. It covers details of all the different festivals and all the different observances that you have to do, including Pratishta. In a sort of a general way. So that's become a de facto standard for new temples and new things. So Padma Samhita is normally the Samhita they use for new installations of temples. Okay, so we covered about self-manifest deities or deities that have been worshipped by a great acharya who had great love for the deity and permanently asked the deity to come and stay in that form. Right, so no Pratishta, no Avahana needs to be done for this type of deity. So that is why many Brahmins, or every Brahmin, will have a Salagram in their house, or Dwarka Shila or Govardhan Shila, because they don't need to go through this extra step of invoking the Lord or doing Prana Pratishta in any way. So secondly, we have the permanent deity, which is installed and is cemented, and is usually made of granite or marble, and is cemented to the Pitham, which is considered to be Lakshmi. And so he's permanently installed, and therefore doesn't need to be invoked or to be. Normally, every 12 years there'll be a re-cementing, and there'll be what we call a Kumbhabhishekam or a Samprokshadam ceremony. Every year there'll be a recharging of that deity, like it's a rechargeable battery. There'll be a adding of some special worship of that deity called Brahmotsavam, and every 12 years or so there'll be a sort of a reconsecration of the deity. So now, so we don't need to talk too much about the Shalagam Shila or the Govardhan Shila deities, the self-manifest deities. We don't need to talk about the deities in the temple. What we're talking about is the movable deities, the Cala Murtis, that are there in our house. They've gone through the Pratishta ceremony. Qualified priest has installed them according to a particular agama, either Hari Bhakti Vilas or Padma Samhita or some other agama, Vaishnava agama. Or if it's a deity of a demigod, then it has to be some other agama like Shaiva agama or Shakta agama, whatever it is. Right, but we're specifically talking about Vaishnava agamas. And according to that movable deity, whether it's a whether it's a temporary or permanent form of the movable deity. A temporary form would be a turmeric cone, you know, in which we could worship Vishvaksena, like people worship Ganesh, or a clay deity, clay. Like in Bengal, they make these deities of clay and straw, like that, and they just use them for a particular, you know, festival that they have, either Durga Puja or War Punim, whatever it is. There might be a clay deity, and they do Visarjana, and later on they valedict it, and the deity, before it breaks down, because it's made of only very, you know, temporary material, like the sand story about the sand deity in Sri Rangam that I told, it's going to break down. So before it breaks down, which would be offensive to us to stay in a form which is getting destroyed, you do the Visarjana of the deity, and you put it in the river or the sea, or you do Visarjana, and you know, if there's a mandala, you have to break the mandala. And, you know, even in Buddhism, you see they make these mandalas and they invoke so many deities and things like that. But at the end of the puja, they valedict all the deities. They tell them, thank you very much for coming. We worship you. Please come again. And they mess up all the mandala and everything like that. They don't keep it permanently. Okay, so in most Vaishnavism, most Vaishnava sects, they don't consider that they have to do the valediction step. If you want to formally do the valediction step and thank the deity and say, please come again, you can. But if you don't want to, you don't have to, you just leave it. And it's considered that the next day or the next time you want to worship that deity, you have to do the Avahanam, you have to do the Pranapratishtha again. So let us look at the document that I wrote about this, and let's go into a little bit more detail about how to do this. Okay, so let me just make sure I can see what I've shared. Should I make that bigger for everybody? Is that big enough? I can make it bigger. I'm going to make it bigger. There we go. How do we do that? Okay, so here we have a document that I wrote in 2018. And it says, puja can be performed to a movable or temporary form only after infusing life into that form. Okay, this comes from the Hari Bhakti Vilas, and also there are statements like this in other agamas and even Puranas and other mantra shastras. When I say other mantra shastras, there are other books like that are mentioned in Hari Bhakti Vilas and also mentioned by different acharyas. For instance, like Krama Dipika, which is an Embarka text, which is very much mentioned in Hari Bhakti Vilas, or Sharda Tilaka, which is a general, we would say a general sort of agama, not specifically a Vaishnava agama, but acceptable to Vaishnavas. And both of these books are quoted in Hari Bhakti Vilas. So it says in Hari Bhakti Vilas, specifically in the 19th Vilas, in the very beginning, it says that the Lord himself says that you should do the Pranapratishtha, you should invoke him in a proper ritualistic way, according to the scriptures, if you expect him to reciprocate with you through the deity form. So, and this process is called Pranapratishtha. We already explained what Pratishtha means. If anybody hasn't, use the chat if you have any questions. We already explained a little bit about what Pratishtha means. Pratishtha means to make the stand. Pratishtha means basically to make the deity stand on the altar or the place where we're going to worship him. But in more detail, it means we have to invoke the life in the deity. And the prana is the life heirs. So somebody may be living, just the jiva. Let's talk of this in terms of the body and the soul. So we know the soul is there within the body, and the consciousness of the soul pervades the body. But the soul can also be there. There are many souls in our body. There's one main soul, right? Because we have microbes and we have all sorts of bacteria and inhabiting our body. So why is it that we talk about the one soul in our heart? Because there's so many souls within us, right? It's because that one soul is more important, because it's the primary one that pervades all the body and feels the pain and pleasures that occur sees, that uses the senses and the mind that is attached to this body, right? So that is the soul we're talking about. So when we do the prana pratishta of the deity, we are specifically asking that form of the Lord to come from Vaikuntha, or to come from Goloka, or come from our heart, or come from the milk ocean, or wherever we conceive of, we meditate from, that he's going to come from there, as he can expand, and he's going to enter into this deity, and he is going to reciprocate with us. And he, when we dress him, he's going to accept the clothes, and when we feed him, he's going to accept the food and all these. He's going to smell the incense. He's going to see the lights, the lamps that we offer. So we have to enliven his senses. We have to make sure that he's not only in there, because God is everywhere. He's in there. He's already in there, but we have to enliven all his senses. So this prana pratishta is to enliven the senses of the deity, open the eyes of the deity, make sure the deity is able to reciprocate with us. So it can be done in a simple or more complex way. Many times a devata, is called a vahana, and or asked to remain temporarily and accept worship simply by the chanting of the deva mula mantras or primary mantras accompanied by the meditation of the priest, that the devata has a certain form and will come and accept the worship. Okay, so for instance, also on top of having a mula mantra or calling the deity's name in the vocative case, or using the mula mantra to call the deity, we also many times start off by first of all chanting a prayer called a dhyana mantra, where we meditate upon the form of the deity that we're trying to call. For instance, Divyad Vrindavana Kalpadrumadya Srimad Ratnagara Simhasanasto Shri Shri Radha Srila Govinda Devo Prasalivi Sevi Manasmarami is a famous prayer. Shri Shri Radha Govinda are sitting underneath a tree, a desire tree, a kalpavriksha in Vrindavan in a certain posture. And we should think like that of the particular forms of deity that we're coming. Well, Vishvaksena has so many arms, and he has so many weapons, and he has his hand in the Tarjani Mudra, warning other people. So we should think of whatever deity that we're invoking, we should think about them and have a dhyana mantra, a meditation mantra for them. Because as I said, meditation is the most important part of any form of ritualism, right? Mindless ritualism is to be totally avoided. If we have no faith and we're not thinking about anything, then we shouldn't be doing rituals. We should only do rituals that we understand the purport of those rituals, we understand the deep meaning of those rituals, and we are engaging our whole mind and senses fully in the meaning of the rituals, and not just the external show. So, okay. So a dhyana mantra is also important. It could be used, right? There are more complex methods for calling and infusing life into these temporary forms. Below is one such method for doing so. Okay, so now I've taken this, I believe. This is perhaps from a typical South Indian version. The very first part of this would be doing the mantra nyasa. Mantra nyasa is now in Hari Bhakti Vilas, before you even get to this point at Hari Bhakti Vilas, there are many, many nyasas to do, including special nyasas and meditations on the goddess Saraswati, who gives us each of the letters of the alphabet by which we can even use mantras. So that is there's a matrika nyasa, which involves all the letters of the Sanskrit alphabet and is focused on goddess Saraswati giving us the ability to even use another mantra, any mantra, fully. So here we've circumvented that, and we've just gone to the first nyasa. The first nyasa will be a type of mantra nyasa which we should be familiar with, and that mantra nyasa usually starts with saying the name of the mantra and touching your own head. First of all, doing the nyasa on yourself, right? Asya Shri Prana Pratishta Maha Mantrasya means this is the great mantra of the Prana Pratishta. Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva are the rishis of this mantra, and we touch the head with 4 fingers of the right hand. Rig Yajur Samatarvani Chanda Gumsi, touch the tip of the nose, or just put the hand in front of the mouth like this. with the four fingers of the right hand. Sakala Jagat Shristi Sthiti Samhara Karni Prana Shakti Devata. The Devata is Prana Shakti. Prana Shakti is a female goddess that is the goddess of the life heirs. The goddess of the life heirs is the Devata that we're going to address in this mantra. And so we can touch the heart with the four fingers of the right hand. Bijam, bijam. Touch the right side of the chest with the four tips of the four fingers of the right hand. Bijam. Is the bijam, is the seed. Hrim Shaktihi. Hrim is another bij. It's a Shakti bij. It's a power bij. Hrim Shaktihi. Touch the left side of the chest with four fingers of the right hand. Krom Kilakam. Touch the middle of the chest with the four fingers. Kilakam, the word kilakam means a peg. A peg is something that you, a piece of a stake that you drive into the ground and which everything circles around. Like if you tie up an animal to a peg, then it can't go any further it's on its leash and it can't go any further than that. So the peg is what is, the chrome is the bija, everything revolves around that. Right? Is the seed. Hrim gives more power, and Krom is the thing which it all surrounds like this. So meditate on this Bija Shakti and Kilakam. Kilakam is the peg. Okay, so then we have Triprana Pratistarte Jape Viniyogaha. The japa that we're going to perform, the purpose of that, the Viniyogaha, is for the purpose of doing prana pratista or enlivening the senses of the deity. Enlivening the senses of the deity. The deity's there. The deity's there, no doubt. We're enlivening the senses of the deity, right? Now we're going to do what is typically called Anganyas and Karanyas. So first of all, the Karanyas is on the hands. Kara means hands. This is the palm of the hand is called the Karatala. Karatala. Tala means a clap. And the Karaprista is on the back. It's the back of the hand. Yeah? So Karatala, Karaprista. There are also 5 fingers on each hand. They are called Angusta, the thumb, Tarjani, the forefinger, Madhyama, the middle finger, Anamika, the finger without any name, which is also sometimes called the Pavitra or pure finger, right? And Kanistika, the little finger. Okay. So there's a dual case ending, Abhyam, Abhyam. When we say Abhyam, we mean 2 thumbs, 2 forefinger, 2 index fingers, 2 middle fingers, 2 ring fingers, and 2 little fingers, right? So here we say which is the Bij mantra that we talked about before. Up above it says Bijam. So we're using and we're using Hrim for the Shakti Bija, and we're using Krom, the Kilaka Bija, right? And we're using them for our Anganyas. Now in Karanyas and Anganyas, there are six. It's divided into 6. So whenever you use a mantra in Karanyas and Anganyas, you have to divide it into 6. If you can't easily divide the mantra into 6, if it's not a 6-syllable mantra, right? Then what you do is you divide it into 3, or divide it into 12, or divide it and then repeat, right? Or if it really can't be, if it has no way of being divided at all, right? Then you just repeat the whole mantra each time. So for instance, Om is a single syllable mantra. So if I were to do Karanyas and Anganyas with Om, I would go Om Angustad Maha, Om Tajini Maha, Om Madhyamad Maha, Om Anavakad Maha, Om Kanistikad Maha, Om Kartadakara Pristad Maha, right? Om Hriyaya Maha, Om Sirse Swaha, Om Shikavasate, Om Kavachaya, Om Netrabim Bosate, or Om Netratrayaya for 3 eyes. There's a difference between 2 and 3 eyes for different deities. Some deities are meditated upon as having 3 eyes, like Narasimha or Durga, and other deities, which are mostly Ugra deities, mostly deities that have a little bit of an angry aspect, have the 3 eyes, sometimes Shiva. But mostly we think of Netrabhyam, which means, again, Abhyam means 2 eyes, Netrabhyam Bosate, Om Astraya Pate, right? That we do the Astra mantra, going around the head. The Astra means a weapon, which is protecting us all around. So this is Om Bhurva Suvaha Ididig Mandaha comes at the end after that. But basically those 6 aspects before for the hands and 6 aspects for the nyata that's done on the body. So 6 for the hand, 6 for the body. So again, everything has to be divided up into 6, or it has to be repeated 6 times, or 3 times, or 2 times, depending on how you can break it up. Okay, so here we have Amangustabyam Namaha, right? Touch the index finger, touch the index finger to the base, run it up the base to the tip of the thumb, right? Hrim Tarjani Byam Namaha, like that. Now, I want to mention another thing here. There are other mantras. Sometimes we see other mantras used at the end instead of Namaha. Namaha is if Namaha is used at the end according to Mantra Shastra, it's a neuter mantra. If Swaha comes at the end, it's considered a feminine mantra. If some other mantras come like Hum or Pat, then it's considered a different type of mantra. So this is all, these are all things which you don't really need to know, but they're explained in more detail in books like Sharda Tilaka or general books on Mantra Shastra or Mantra Mahodari. There's some other books, yeah. Okay, so that's not really important to know that, but just understand that sometimes you'll see prayogas or texts that say, that use, even in Hari Bhakti Vilas, they'll sometimes won't use Namaha every time, right? Okay, so we go Amangastab Namaha, Hrim Tajani Namaha, Krom Madhyamab Namaha, Amanabika. So again, because we've got 3 bejas that we're doing this with, we're going to repeat them twice to make up those 6 different things for the hands and for the body nyasa, the karanyasa and the anganyasa. So, Anamikabhyam Namaha, Anamikabhyam Namaha, Hrim Kanistikabhyam Namaha on the little fingers, and then last, Krom on the front and back of the hands. Krom Kartala Karapristabhyam Namaha, right? And there are slight different variations of how people do these nyasas, which can be seen in different samhitas and in different groups. But basically, they're all the same. There are some ways to hold the hands and different fingers to use, but normally it's pretty similar. Okay, so then we have finished the Karanyasa here with the fronts and backs of the palms. So now we're going to do the same thing on the body. This is called, first we had Karanyasa on the hands. Secondly, we have Anganyasa, or what's called also Sadanganyasa. The word Sad means simply 6. So it's Anganyasa, but we call it Sadanganyasa usually, Sadanganyasa. So again, we're going to use Am, Hrim, and Krom. These are these 3 bij mantras that we're going to use, and they have certain powers that we talked about. Okay, so Am Hridayaya Namaha, touch the heart with 4 fingers of the right hand. Hrim Shirase Swaha, touch the head. It can be the top of the head or wherever, on the head. Krom Shikaya Vasate. So many people use the thumb like that and they hold it back here, touching the shika, or the place where the shika is. Ladies can also do that, even if they don't have a shika, just the area where the normal shika comes. There are different types of shikas. Some shikas are on the top of the head and come forward. These are called purva shikas. Some shikas are at the back. Usually they're on the crown of the head, where the Brahmarandra is. Or this could be the Brahmarandra, this could be the Brahmarandra, but anyway, sort of where this chakra is supposed to be, wherever it is. Anyway, so then we've got Shikaya Vasate, and you notice here that we've started to use these other mantras to ending. Swaha Vasate, Hum, Vaushate, and Pat, right? So we've got, okay, so we're starting again. Am Hridaya Namaha, Hrim Shirse Swaha, Krom Shikaya Vasate, Am Kavachaya Hum. Usually people cross their hands like that, but some people take the right hand and touch the right hand and the right shoulder first and then the left shoulder, or you can do it by crossing your arms. Am Kavachaya Hum, Hrim Netrabhyam Vosate. Netrabhyam I've put because of 2 eyes, touching the 2 eyes with the ring middle and index fingers. Middle finger is used, of course, if you're doing the 3rd eye and saying Netra Trayaya Voshate. Okay? It says here, normally Ugra or ferocious deities are conceived as having 3 eyes, right? Krom Astraya Pate. Strike the left palm with the index and middle fingers, right? So once or thrice, right? And then Bhurbhava Subaha, say the Vyahritis, meaning the different planetary systems. Om, Bhurbhava Suvarom, Iti Digbandaha, snap the fingers going clockwise around the head. Now, normally, Smartas, specifically Smartas, they will not only do a Digbandaha, Banda means to close, closing the directions. Why are we closing the directions? Like a force field around us to stop any outside influences coming in. So our meditation can be very fixed on what we are thinking about, right? So we're surrounding ourselves by these mantras, and we're thinking that we are cut off from the outside, no distractions, and we're completely meditating upon what we're going to be doing. Okay, some people do a visarjana for that type of force field around us. So Smartas, they will also do a thing called a digvimokaha, where they go counterclockwise and remove the force field. So they'll do that at the end of doing any ritual where they do a nyasa, karnyasa, and anganyasa in the beginning. They'll do a digbandaha, close the directions. They'll also open the directions. So there'll be the same situation, opening the directions. You go through the kartala and go through the karanyasa and the anganyasa, followed by bhurbhavasavaha iti digvimokaha, and snap the fingers the other way around and release the force field. And again, you're free to interact with your surroundings, and you're not totally concentrating on what we're doing now. Now, then there's a meditation, there's a dhyana mantra, and this is a similar sort of thing that people are doing even when they're chanting japa of a mantra. They can do all these what are called japangas or angas or limbs of japa, limbs of chanting, where they do this anganyas, karanyas, first of all the mantranyas, then karanyas, then anganyas. And this is also described in Hari Bhakti Vilas and all of the agamas also. And also general mantra shastras like Sarva Tilaka, Kramadipika. Okay, so now we have a prayer. Raktam Bodhishta Potalasa Daruna Sarojadi Rudha Karabjahi Pasham Kodanda Ikshud Bhava Ali Gunam Apyankusham Pancha Banan Vibrana Shrikalam Kapalam Trinayana Lasita Pin Avak Sorudya Devi Balarka Varna Bhavatu Sukakari Prana Shakti Paranaha. Okay, so this is a meditation. So the meaning is given later on. Okay, and then you chant Om, Am, Hrim, Krom. So first of all, Om, then we're going to do those bija mantras that we did the nyasas for. Am, Hrim, Krom. Then backwards, Krom, Hrim, Am. Then we're going to do some letters of the Sanskrit alphabet, right? Starting with Am, and then the semivowels, added semivowel sibilants and the aspirate, followed by anushvara. So Am, Yam, Ram, Lam, Vam, Sham, Sham, Sam, Ham. Some people add Lam, Sham, and Aha. Hamsaha Soham. Hamsaha Soham. Soham Hamsaha. Okay, this is a mantra called Ajapa Japa. What is Ajapa Japa? Japa means counting. It's repetition of a mantra, and we count the repetitions. Japa, right? Actually, what is the definition of japa in Sanskrit? Japa means janmani shed papanasaha iti japaha, right? That thing which destroys rebirth, janmani shed. Rebirth is destroyed, and papanasana and sin is also destroyed. That process is called japa. Okay, so this is one definition of japa, okay, in Sanskrit. Janmani shed papanasana iti japaha. So this mantra is called ajapa japa. The uncounted japa, the japa that you always do is the ajapa japa. So it is understood that this Soham Hamsaha mantra, and it may be mentioned in the Upanishads somewhere, or you can look it up, but it is a type of involuntary mantra that every living being chants all the time. So hum, sah. These are natural sort of sounds that we make when we're breathing. So hum saha, right? So hum saha. And it has a meaning also, but we don't need to go into the meaning. For this philosophical meaning behind it and everything, we don't need to go into that here. Okay, so then the following mantra contains asyam murtau, meaning in this form. If one is invoking it into two or more forms, then you use two, the dual or the plural. In Sanskrit, we have singular, dual, and plural. Unlike most languages that just have singular and plural. But there's a special ending for when we have only two of something, like a pair of pants or a pair of scissors, like that. When there's two things involved, right? If you have a pair of pants, it has two legs, right? You don't say one pant. You say a pair of pants. But it means there's only one pant, but it's got two legs, right? So if you have two, if you're invoking Radha and Krishna, or Sita and Rama, right? Or Lakshmi Narayana, right? These are a form, there are two. If you're invoking them in one form, and there's one pot, and you're invoking Lakshmi Narayana in one pot, then it's one form. If there are two forms, Lakshmi and Narayana, Sita and Rama, Radha and Krishna, then you have to use the dual case ending. If you have got Rama and he's got Sita, Rama, Lakshmana, Hanuman, right? If you've got all these different people there in the Parivar or family of Rama, then you have to use the plural ending if you have more than one deity. If you have a pot and you're invoking Sita, Rama, Lakshmana, Hanuman, Sameta, right? All of them in the pot, that's only one form. But if you have different forms and you're invoking all those forms, then you need to use the plural. I hope that's anybody who needs more coaching on Sanskrit grammar and how some simple things about Sanskrit grammar, then we can do that. So here I've given for ease what it would be in singular, dual, and plural in the brackets. So for singular, we say asyam murtau in this form, right? Or anyo mutyoho, or asu mutishu, right? Pranas tishtatu. Make the life air should be established, right? Asyam murto, or anayo murtayoho, or asu murtisu, right? Jivas tishtatu. The living force should be situated, should be established, right? Asyam murto, or the dual and plural forms. Sarvendriyani, all of the indriyas, all of the different what are indriyas? Indriyas are senses. All of the different senses of the Lord should be invoked. And what are those senses? Van, Manas, Twak, Chakshur, Shrotra, Jihwa, Grana, Vak, Pani, Pada, Payupastani, Prana, Apana, Vyanodana, Samanaha, Ihagatya. Please come, right? So we know Van, Manas, Chak, these are all different senses, right? And knowledge acquiring senses and working senses, right? And the mind. So there's 11 or more things here, right? There's 5 working senses for 5 knowledge acquiring senses, right? And the mind, right? And then there's whatever it is. We can do a translation of this some other time, right? Please come here, be auspicious, be happy, and be peaceful and happy. Swasti Shukam Chiram Tishtantu Swaha. This is the mantra. Or optionally, you can say Sanidhya Kuru Swaha. Sanidhya means be close to me. Be close, be close, right? Then after that, what is said here is we should then, after we've called the deity and allow the deity to have senses and everything, right? To have these different indriyas, right? Then the first thing that we should do is perform the samskaras for that deity. So just like when a baby is born, throughout its life, it's going to do the different samskaras. So similarly, this deity is born in a pot or in a yantra or in a movable deity, right, or in a temporary form made of mud or clay, right, is born, and we want to observe the samskaras for purifying the life of this deity, right? And so some people consider there are 15 samskaras, some people say there's 16, and Haribhaktivilas says there's 16. In this particular system, it says 15. So we meditate upon these different samskaras and offering these samskaras to this new deity with Omkara, just by chanting Omkara. So we say Om, 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 Om. If we're doing 15, if we're doing 14, then we'll do Om, 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 Om. 16, right? Okay, so with Om and meditating that each one of these, and we can speak about it later, it'll be explained, I think, what these different samskaras mean. Yeah. So now we have another prayer to make, and this is actually I believe this is not sure, but I think this is a Vedic mantra, so it doesn't have the swaram here, but I can add the swaram to it, and I can also give you an audio of a Vedapati chanting it. But it's Asnute Puna Asmaso Chakshuhu Puna Pranam Iha No Dehi Bhogam Jog Pasyema Suryam Ucharantam Anumate Milaya Na Swasti Pranan Patistapayami. It doesn't sound Vedic, but maybe it is Vedic. I'm not sure exactly. So I'll have to look that up. Right? The next section is gender and number specific. So we, again, have to know a little bit about Sanskrit, basic Sanskrit grammar if we want to use it. If more than one devata is being invoked, or any number of one group is male, then we use the male mantras in dual and plural numbers. Does everybody understand that? So here we have, if we have one deity and the deity is considered female, we use female endings. If we have more than one deity, if all the deities are female, we use female dual and plural endings. But if there's one male amongst the group, so if we have Sita, Lakshmana, Bharata, Satrughna, Hanumat, Sameta, they're all males except for Sita. So the whole group is given male endings. So even if you had 8 goddesses and one god, all the group, if you want to worship the group together, it's just the way Sanskrit grammar works. It's a little patriarchal and a little masculine centered. So for the group, we give masculine endings. We have to give the endings, there are different endings for masculine and feminine, so we have to decide if there's a group with one man in it, we have to decide whether we want to give that masculine or feminine, and we always give it masculine endings in Sanskrit grammar. So that's just the way it is, like that. Otherwise, if there's a group of only females, deities, then we'll use the female endings, of course. So here we have singular devata invocations. For singular male devatas, the following, while showing appropriate mudras. Now, I haven't shown any of the mudras here. The mudras should be learned from a guru, and different ways of doing mudras are done by different people. People can look on my YouTube channel. I have a video showing for Pancharatric priests in a temple, the Avahanadi mudras, the mudras for invoking the deity, and there's a whole set of them. We're not going to go into those today, but just believe me that all of these have the mudra that goes along with the mantra. So here's the mantra and the appropriate mudras being mentioned.
Prabhuji, just one question.
Who's asking question?
Dhiranitaidas.
Okay.
So you mentioned before that we can just say Avahayami, and here we see this another form, Avahito Bhava. So what would be the difference?
Okay,
Is there any difference?
Very good. That's a really good question. That's a very good question. Avahayami is the present tense, which we call lat parasmaipada in Sanskrit, of the verb avahita. Avahita means please to come. Avahita means to come. So avahayami means I invoke you. I invoke you. Here, they are using the verb to be, which is bhavati, bhavati, bhavataha, bhavanti, in the present tense, and they've said bhava. They've made it into a preposition. Preposition. Yeah. Anyway, they've made it into a participle. They've made it into a present participle. They've made it into a present participle. So it means being. Bhava means being, basically. So abhito, avahito also is no longer a verb. So these are two nouns that are being used in a verbal sense here. So avahito means avahitaha, which means presence. Your presence should be being. Let you be present. It means let you be present, whereas avahayami means I invoke you. It's just either way. It's just a different way of saying it. It's a different way of saying it. Like, for example, if I want to say the same thing and I want to use passive and active voice in English, I say the boy kicked the ball. That's active. If I want to say the ball was kicked by the boy, it's the same meaning, but it's saying it in a passive way. So here they've used nouns. They've used nominal stems instead of using verbal stems. But you can say avahayami, stapayami, sanihitayami, sanirodhyami, whatever. You can turn these all into verbs, and you can use the present tense if you want. Or you can just do it this way. So I've written it this way because this is a normal way that people do it. If you're not doing all of these, you would say avahayami, stapayami, pratistapayami, whatever. You would just do a couple of them like that, present tense. But this is the normal way they do it. It's either one or the other. It means the same thing. It's just different Sanskrit grammar. Is that okay? Does that explain it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, if people want, we could do a bit of a class, and we could have a little bit more, just tiny. I mean, it could be just Sanskrit grammar 101, and just explain like enough Sanskrit grammar to be a priest or to do ritual functions, how to do a sankalpa properly in Sanskrit, how to add the endings, and what endings to use in particular cases. But most people, even the priests in India, most of them don't know proper Sanskrit, and you'll find that sometimes they use the wrong endings and the wrong Sanskrit grammar in prayogas and things like that. It's very common. Very common. Okay, so here we have avahito bhava, stapito bhava, right? Sanihito bhava, sanirudo bhava, avaguntito bhava, suprito bhava, suprasanno bhava, sumukho bhava, varado bhava, prasida. Okay, and here are the mudras that go along with it. Yeah, avahito bhava, stapito bhava, sanihito bhava, sanirudo bhava, avaguntito bhava. This K is the same as the G above, because Tamil, this has been translated from Tamil, so in Tamil K and G are the same letter, so the person who translated this put K instead of G. So avaguntito bhava, supratito bhava, suprasano bhava, sumukho bhava, vardo bhava, prasida are all with just the Anjali mudra or prayer mudra. Okay, so after that.
Sorry, just one more question. From which Samhita is this now?
This is just the general South Indian way of doing it. Okay. Then I've written a couple of other things down here. I've given one German scholar. I've given an excerpt from his book, and he does it according to Rig Veda style of Western India. So I've given the general South Indian method, the general West Indian method, and then we'll also see the Hari Bhakti Vilas method. But in different places in India, it'll be slightly different, but it'll all be based on this. And so, for instance, I have a book called Gopalarchana Padati written in Orissa it's a Gaudiya Padati, and it also shows the mudras, and the mudras may be slightly different, and the mantras may be slightly different. And we can go through that too sometime too. But here I just thought to take the very most common method of doing it and present that. And then if people, so my suggestion, okay, first of all, learn how to do things very simply. Learn a complex system, which is the most common. Understand that system. And then if you want to learn specific different methods of doing it, then learn from that. Then you'll have the basics down and you can just adjust a little bit. Adjust it a little bit. Okay? So, okay. Yes. So now we have this...
Just yeah. One more question. Where would Mula Mantra come?
Well, probably before this, before we even do this, we're going to do Achmana Pranayam Sankalpa, right? Then we're going to do Vishwaksena Puja. Then we're going to chant the Dhyanam for Vishwaksena, right? Then I meditate upon Vishwaksena. Then I'm going to chant Vishwaksenaya Namaha Avahiyami Stapayami. But then if I'm going to do a full Prana Pratishta, then I would say Vishwaksenaya Namaha, right? Right before this, I would say Vishwaksenaya Namaha, Avahito Bhava, Stapito Bhava, Sanhito Bhava, right? I think I've also presented Vishwaksena Puja being performed by Raman Bhatta in Hyderabad a few years ago as a movie. I'm not sure whether I put it up on YouTube or not, but I did present it to the group. It's on YouTube? Okay.
Yeah.
So you can watch that again and you can see, because I believe he does show the mudras and things. So you will see when he says Vishwaksenaya Namaha, and you'll hear the mantras and what he says, and you can take it from that. So yeah, it would probably come right before this, right before Avahito Bhava. Anyway, so then we have this mantra here, asking the deity to come and be present close. Swamin Sarva Jagannatha Yavat Puja Vasana Kale Tavatvam Priti Bhavena something Sanidim Kuru, right? And that blank there is, depending upon whether you're worshiping a deity or a mandala or a yantra or a jewel or where you're asking the deity to reside. Sanidim means to be close, be inside, be here in this form. What particular form you want, you put in there, and we'll come to that in a minute. Here's the same thing for female deities. A female deity, you would say, not Avahito Bhava, but Avahita Bhava. Now, here is where it would be easier to use the present tense and still say Avahiyami. Because when you say Avahiyami, I invoke you, it's the same for masculine, feminine, or plural, or singular. So that could be an advantage if you don't know a lot of Sanskrit to use Avahiyami, Stapayami. And many priests do that. But this is the more complex way. It's the more traditional Orthodox way of doing it, using these. So doing it, we simply add the female endings, Avahita Bhava, Tapita Bhava, Sanihita Bhava, Sanirudha Bhava, Avaguntita Bhava. Each one ends in a long A. That shows that it's feminine. Supratita Bhava, Suprasana Bhava, Sumukhi Bhava, long I, right, for feminine. Varada Bhava instead of Varado Bhava, right? Prasida is the same, right? And then we show the same mudras there. And then the mantra that comes after that to ask the female deity, the goddess, to come and to stay in a particular thing, in the mandala or in a mantra or yantra or whatever it is. Then we will say Devi Sarva Jagannayike. Nayika, the word Nayika means heroine, means a goddess. A female hero is in English called a heroine, right? So Nayika, some people say Nayaki Bhava, the bhava or the mood of a heroine. So the proper word in Sanskrit is normally Nayika. Nayika, but some people say Nayaki, Nayaki. Okay, whatever you want to use. Swamini Sarva Jaganate, you can also replace this first line with Yavat Puja Vasana Kale, same as the other mantra, or Puja Vasana Kam, right? Tavat Tvam Priti Bhavena, and again, whatever form you're invoking the goddess into, you have to say Bimbe Smin Sanidim Kuru, that means in a deity. Yantre Smin Sanidim Kuru, that means in a yantra. Mandale Smin Sanidim Kuru, that means in a mandala. Mani Smin in a jewel. Chitre Smin in a picture, like that, and it'll all be down here. So now we have the dual Devata invocations, and we say, I'll just run through them quickly. This would be dual male deities, so Krishna Balaram, for instance, or Lakshman and Rama. So Avahitao Bhavatam, Stapitao Bhavatam, Sanihitao Bhavatam, Sanirudao Bhavatam, Avagunzinao Bhavatam, Supritao Bhavatam, excuse me. Suprasanao Bhavatam. You don't usually hear people do this because most, like I said, most priests, they don't know the Sanskrit. So they won't know how to change the grammar of it. So they'll just go, you'll hear Avahito Bhava, Stapito Bhava, even if it's a female deity, even if it's more than one deity, you'll hear a lot of people just going Avahito Bhava, Stapito. I'm including the proper Sanskrit nominal endings for people who want to be actually correct when they say it, right?
Yes, so just to be sure, so this would be, for example, if we invoke Gauranitai, this would then be for Gauranitai, or even for Radha Krishna, that would be the same.
Again, if you're invoking Gauranitai in one pot or in one form,
oh, okay.
You have a picture of Gauranitai and you're invoking them simultaneously in one thing. If you have Gaur and Nitai, right? And they're separate.
Singular.
Unless
singular.
Are you going to worship them with a combined Mula mantra? Like let's say Radha Krishna. You're using Radha Krishnabhyam Namaha, or are you using Tum Krishna Namaha, Shrimram Radhikaya Namaha?
Radha Krishnabhyam.
If you're using a combined Mula mantra, then you should invoke them together. If you're using a separate Mula mantra, then you should invoke them separately.
Okay, so we don't. I don't have one Mula mantra for both Gaur and Nitai, so I use separate mantras.
But you can make one Mula mantra for Gaur Nitai, a combined Mula mantra for Gaur Nitai. You can take the Mula mantra for Gora, the Mula mantra for Nitai. You can add them together, add Abhyam and Namaha to it, and so you can get Klim Gora Nitabhyam Namaha, like this, something like this, right? You can have a combined Mula mantra. That's why I was saying in Hari Bhakti Vilas it says, take the names of the deity, add the dative case, add Namaha, add Om before it, or in this case we have a Klim Bija we can use. We can use a Bij mantra. And we can make a new mantra. There's a whole system for making a new mantra, even if it's not in Shastra, and purifying that mantra. The system of making a new mantra is very much like this system. We have to do prana pratishta on the mantra itself. If we want to use a new mantra, which is what I did when I installed the deities in Germany, because we had no combined Prahlad Narasimha Mula mantra or combined Lakshmi Prahlad Lakshmi Narasimha mantra. So I have to do those samskaras for using that new mantra, new Mula mantra. So that's possible. That's there in Hari Bhakti Vilas. It's at the end of the second Vilas. And it's a system of, it's also mentioned from Sharda, I believe it's from Sharda Tilaka. Sharda Tilaka explains more how to do it. But it's a little bit complicated, but if you want to do it, you can do it. Sometimes people like to use only the mantra which is given by their guru. But in that case, they have to only worship the deities that are given by their guru, or they have to consider the mantra given by their guru as the seed mantra or the primary mantra from which all the other mantras expand. like in the case of Sri Vaishnavas, Om Namo Narayanaya, as the Astakshara mantra is considered to be all expansive, and we can worship any Vishnu form with that mantra. So we might be worshiping Krishna or Rama or Narasimha, but we can use Om Namo Narayanaya for doing that. So similarly, like the Gaudiyas might worship Krishna or Rama or Narasimha, but they might use Gopal mantra because it's their main mantra and it's their Diksha mantra. So there might be some people who are very orthodox who do that. But there are also other people who specifically want to use the mantra for Narasimha, the mantra for Rama, or the mantra for some other, deity. If they're worshiping Vamana, offer with a mantra for Vamana or Haigriva, whatever it is. So, okay, so this is the dual endings. And down here we have another sloka which also is used for the dual endings. Actually, I think that's the same as the first one, the singular male one. So I have to look at that and see if I've done that correctly. That may need a little grammatical tweaking. I'm not sure. If people really want to know, then they can. Here we have the fulfilled dual female devatas. Dual female devatas. Now, when will we have this? For instance, if we have Lalita and Vishaka, we have two ladies, two female deities, two goddesses, two gopis, right? Who are being worshipped. So maybe we worship Radha Krishna together and we worship Lalita and Vishaka together, right? So if in that case, we would use this, the dual endings, and here they are, Avahite Bhavam, like that, Stapite Bhavam, etc., with the mudras and the sloka at the end. Right, now, if we have plural, sorry, but this is a little bit long. It's long only because, and complicated because I wanted to show the differences. I could have shown all these things in brackets. It would have made everything very, very complicated. So I just separated it out and said, look, if it's this situation, go to this page and look at this and just follow this. So I wanted to make it cookbook style, very easy to follow. So I did this. So here we have plural devatas. Now, plural male devatas, right? Remember that means where there's more than one god or devata, male god, right? And there may be one or more female deities or goddesses. There may be more. Like, so if we have Radha Krishna and 8 gopis and we want to worship them all together, right? So there's only one male devata, that's Lord Krishna. The others are all females. They're all Shaktis. They're all goddesses or gopis. So because there's 8 gopis in Radha, there's 9 goddesses there or gopis. Why don't we use the feminine plural? We don't because there's one male there. So that's just the way it is in Sanskrit grammar, and it's misogynistic. Maybe it's patriarchal, but just deal with it. That's the way Sanskrit grammar is. So here we have the plural male endings. So avahita, bhavata. So it looks very much like the feminine avahita, but the bhavata shows that the verb to be, when it's put in this, made into this sort of participle, right? It shows that it's plural. Okay, so I won't run through them all, but there they are. There's the mudras again, and there's the, again, I think that's the same sloka that I used for the males, at singular and dual males. Okay, so now we have plural female devatas. So if we're worshipping all the gopis together, Krishna's not there, worshipping Krishna separately, and we're worshipping all the gopis or 2 gopis or more than 2. Sorry, more than 2. Plural means more than 2 goddesses. Here would be the appropriate mantras. Okay, and then we have the mudras, and then we have the female sloka or verse at the end. Now it says here that we have this. Now in all of these we have this dash here, which means that there's a missing set of words. And what do we put in that missing set of words? We put in the missing words at the end of the last verse for most male and female devatas is filled out with the following, depending on the medium or the type of deity which is being invoked, right? So if it's a deity, we say bimbe swim. Bimba means a form, right? We could also use the word murti, murtesmin. We could say murtesmin. I haven't written that there. A 2-dimensional deity, which means like a copper plate, which has got a form on it, of a deity with hands and legs, right? Like that. That is called a deity in bas relief, or in almost two-dimensional. Yeah. Sometimes we have these type of deities, and we put them inside water pots when we do installation like that. Other times we can worship that deity. It's like a yantra. Okay, but it's called a pratima. So pratimayam. So then in a picture or a painting or a photograph, right, we can worship the deity. Chitrasmin. Chitra means a picture, a painting, or a photograph. Kumbha, in a pot. Kumbha. A kumbha is a pot. A kalasha is a pot. A ghat is a pot. These are just different names in Sanskrit for pot. So we say gatesmin, we can say kumbhesmin, we can say kalashesmin. What is this letter E at the end is the locative case singular. It means in this, in the deity, in the pratima, in the painting, in the picture, in the kumbha, in the pot, in the yantra. Yantrasmin, mandalesmin, in the mandala, on the mandala. It means in or on. It can mean on also, locative case, singular. Paleshmin, you have a coconut and you want to worship Lakshmi in a coconut. You want to worship in an areca nut, a supari nut, right? You want to invoke Kuvera in a. So you say Paleshmin. It's considered a fruit. Paleshmin. Rateshmin. When you're doing Rath Yatra, before you do Rath Yatra, you have to invoke the deities in the Rath cart. So when you do Rathotsava or Rath Yatra, you have to invoke the deities in the Rath cart by saying Rateshmin Sanidim Kuru. Please come and invoke them in the Rath cart. Then Ratnesmin. You might have Vimana, the temple tower. Vimanesmin Sanidim Kuru. So whatever form you invoke the deity in. Now, can anybody think of a verse that we already use this type of prayer? Gange cha Yamuni chaiva Godavari Saraswati Narmade Sindhu Kaveri, all names of rivers. And what do we say? Jale Smin Sanidim Kuru. So exactly the same, we already know how to do this. When we want to call the Ganges and the holy rivers into the water, we say Gange cha Yamuni chaiva Godavari Saraswati Narmade Sindhu Kaveri. We say all the names of the holy rivers. We invoke them with their names. And then we say, Jale, in this water, Smin, Asmin means this. Jale Smin, in this water. Sanidim, be close, be here. Kuru, be here. Sanidim Kuru, right? So we already know this, but now we are using the same method that we use to invoke the Ganges and all these different rivers. And instead of invoking the Ganges, we're invoking different deities into different media. Okay, so that's what I wrote. We can read the rest of this is simply from the book, which I've given out to everybody about puja. It's called Puja, and it's a PhD thesis by this German scholar. And it deals with his understanding of the puja rituals, the Sodasupachara, the 16 articles of service and everything in West India, in Maharashtra, and it's very, very similar to all these other things. So here it explains about the pranayama. I'm not going to go into this here. You can read it for yourself. And let's go down and let's see. He's explaining all about the different types of the mantra nyasa and the anuswara and what the kilaka means and all these different things. He calls it a wedge. Yeah. Okay. So talking about the different indriyas, the different senses, and let's go through. There's a Vedic mantra, right, which is the hymn to Nairiti. Yeah, I'll put in the swaras for that. Okay. Then there's another mantra, reciting Omkar 15 times for the 15 purificatory samskaras. He's listed the samskaras. Garbhadana, Pumsavana, Simantanayana, Jadakarma, Namakarna, Niskramana, Anaprasana, right? Chola or tonsure, right? Upanayana, Vedavrata, Chadustaya, Samavartana, Udvahana. Now, a question might also, somebody might ask a question, well, why do you do Upanayana? If you've got a female deity, do you do Upanayana for a female deity? That might be a question. But people usually don't go into this much detail. Usually they just offer all these samskaras regardless of whether it's a male or female deity with the Omkara. Okay, so then at the end of the ritual, there's a meditation on Prana Shakti. The devotee then opens the eyes, netra and milanam of the idol by touching them with durva grass, or it could be kusha grass. In our case, we use kusha grass normally. In the house, there's a system that we can read from the Hobalamat Anikam, how they do with tulsi leaves and flowers, how we do this with tulsi leaves and flowers if people are interested. The ritual, okay, so then here's the actual ritual, and it's very similar to the one that we went through before. Very similar, and he gives the translation of it also. Here's the translation. Yeah. Okay, so let's keep going. Now, here we come to, I wrote this part again from Hari Bhakti Vilas, and I've given the quotations from the different parts of Hari Bhakti Vilas, 567, 626 to 40, and 644. Now, people may say, well, okay, chapter 19 or Vilas 19 is the one about installation of the deity, so why haven't you quoted from chapter 19? Chapter 19 is that complex ritual of installing the deity for the first time, either movable or immovable. Here is the daily ritual, which occurs in the daily puja of the deity. Hari Bhakti Vilas, the first Vilas is about finding a guru, second Vilas is about initiation, third Vilas and fourth Vilas are about getting up and taking bath in the morning and doing certain things in the morning. Right? From the fourth, basically from the fourth to the eighth Vilas is the morning puja. So here in the fifth Vilas, 567, 626 to 40, and 644 are described the part of the morning ritual that involves prana pratishta. Now, the actual Hari Bhakti Vilas is not a prayoga. It's a samhita. It gives different texts. It gives different pramanas from different shastras, different proofs, shastric proofs about different things. You have to create a procedure from it. It may be that Hari Bhakti Vilas is talking about the worship of a deity in a temple. It may be he's talking about the worship of Radha Raman because it's being written by Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Radha Raman, remember, is a shalagram, is a self-manifest deity. So there may not be any of Avahanam of Radha Raman, right? So, but we do have this system of prana pratishta, but where does it come? The system of prana pratishta in Hari Bhakti Vilas is taken from the section about Bhuta Shuddhi. Bhuta Shuddhi. So later on, I quote from a place, let's just look down here for a second. At the end here, here is a section from Mantra Mahodari. Mahodari means ocean, great ocean of mantras. It's a mantra shastra like Sharda Tilaka. Also very similar to some of these other places like Pramadipika, yeah, which is a Kashmiri tantra, right, which is written by Keshava Kashmiri, who is an Nimbarkacharya. That's quoted a lot in Hari Bhakti Vilas. But this is Mantra Mahodari, big book. I have the whole book. But here I've quoted the section about prana pratishta, and it explains in slokas. This is not a prayoga. This is a sloka. It needs to be gone through. Buddha Shuddhim. So we're doing the Buddha Shuddhi first, and then the prana pratishta mantra, and then it speaks about the chanda, the bija, the shakti, the viniyogaha, and it explains about all these different things. Yeah? Okay. So basically what we just discussed as a prayoga is explained here in sloka form. So now if we go up, that means that Buddha Shuddhi is to be done first. So in actual fact, even in Gaudiya Vaishnava and even in temple worship, Buddha Shuddhi might be a little bit more complicated, but usually in home worship, a simple Buddha Shuddhi is done. Now, in the Gaudiya Math and ISKCON, the Buddha Shuddhi is very simple. It's a meditation upon the pure soul as a servant of God. And it's a chanting of mantras like Divyaji Harimandirabhya Tilakam Kantam Sumalamvitam and Gopi Bhartahu Parakamalayo Dasa Dasa Anudasaha, this sloka by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, thinking that we are eternal servants of Krishna and that we're pure and that we're not Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, or Sudras. We don't belong to the Varnashram system or material society, but we're actually eternal servants of Krishna. So this is a simple meditation that goes instead of Buddha Shuddhi in the Gaudiya Math and ISKCON. But in Hari Bhakti Vilas is a more complex one, which includes the Pranapatista mantras. Now, why does it include the Pranapatista mantras? It includes the Pranapatista mantras because this is a thing called Ahangrapasana. Ahangrapasana means you're basically worshiping yourself, or you have to be God before you can worship God. Now, what do I mean by that? I don't mean we become God. We don't become God. The Jiva never becomes God. The Jiva isn't anything like God. The Jiva is Anu. God is Vibhu. God is great. God is everywhere. The Jiva is in one place, a very small spark, and God is the intense, all-pervading fire. Okay, so, but Ahangrapasana is a part of puja that when we start, we first of all invoke the Lord in the heart and we purify the body. We have to think of ourselves. It's a meditation on having a pure form and having spiritual senses. So our spiritual form and our spiritual senses are that which we worship the deity with. And this is a very important thing. And in Hari Bhakti Vilas, it should be done before all homa, all japa, all puja. Buddha Shuddhi should be done. So I've already given out how to do Buddha Shuddhi, Gaudiya Vaishnava style, and I think I've already explained Sri Vaishnava style, which is very similar. And these mantras that we do, if you know how to do the invocation of the deity this way, then you also know how to do the Buddha Shuddhi, because it's the same thing, installing the Lord in your heart and purifying the body. And it's very similar meditation. There's a slight difference, but very similar. Okay, so now let's look at the way that they talk about it in Hari Bhakti Vilas, the same procedure that we see above, that we've seen above, that I've given from South Indian and from West Indian sources. Right. So chanting the Pranapatista mantra again. Pranapatista mantrasya Brahma Vishnu Risha. Vishnu Rudra instead of Maheshwara Rishayaha. Touch the top of the head. Rigyajya Sama Chanda Gumsi. It can be Chanda Gumsi or Chandamsi, depending on what Veda Shaka you're following, because this sound Gum comes when Anushwara is followed by one of the S's or R or H in like Krishna Yajurveda. So depending on, you can say Chandamsi or Chandagumsi depending on your Veda Shaka. Okay? There was also this other part in brackets here. I'm not quite sure where I put that. That's Va means or, right? Or, so there's an alternate reading here in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. Okay. Then we have Kriya Maya Vapu Pranakya Devata, right? Prana Pratistartes Vini Yogaha. And then we have these mantras, right? These mantras, a little bit more complicated than the one up there, but the advantage is it's coming from Hari Bhakti Vilas. So just follow, it's a type of nyasa. Touch the heart, touch the head, touch the sika. What is that? That is saranga nyasa, touching the angas of limbs of the body, right? Do the kavacha, touch the shoulders, touch the three eyes. Interesting that in Hari Bhakti Vilas they use the form with the three eyes, and then do the Astra mantra around and do the Digbandha around the body, and now recite the following mantras, bringing the tips of the four fingers of the right hand near to the parts of the body mentioned. One may use the left hand for the actions on the right side of the body. Now, some people will say you shouldn't do that. You should try to touch the right side of the body with the right hand. It becomes very difficult if you do that. Okay, but you can try. That's up to you. I don't personally think that that's something that you really need to focus on. You need to focus on actually doing the nyasa. And so if you need to touch the right side of the body with the left hand, go ahead and do it. Because we're meditating, the whole body is pure anyway. So then we have Brim, Prime, Yam, Ram, Lam, Vam, Sham, Sam, Ham, Lam, and they have all these different places to touch. And then we have that same mantra, that same meditation on Prana Shakti Devi to enliven the senses, right? And a translation of that mantra, touch the heart with the tips of the four fingers of the left hand on top of the head of the deity with the tips of the four fingers of the right hand. Chant Om, Hrim, Krom, invoke the life heirs of the deity, ask for his life to stay there, meditate upon the deity expanding from your heart, entering the deity and being there. And then enliven all his senses. May he stay there for a long time and be happy and enjoy prosperity. And then chant Om 16 times for the 16 different samskaras, according to Hari Bhakti Vilas. Om, 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 right? And then there comes the actual Avahana Vidhi after the Pranapratishta, the Avahana Vidhi, right? Right? Chant Shri and the name of the deity, Yahavaha. Yavaha. I've broken the sandhi. In each case, I broke the sandhi here for you to see the two words, right? But this is how it's chanted with the sandhi connecting the two words. Yavaha, Yavaha. The name of the deity meaning come here, right? And show Avahana Mudra. For Stapana, Iha Samyaktista, Iha Samyaktista, right? First of all, chant the name of the deity, right? Be established here. Show some Stapana Mudra. Third, for Sanidapana, chant Iha Sanidehi, Iha Sanidehi. See, above we were saying Avahana. Instead of saying Yava, we were saying Avahito Bhava, right? So again, it's Avahiyami, Avahito Bhava, Yavaha. It means the same thing in Sanskrit. It's just a different way of saying it. Iha means here, Avaha means come here, right? It's a different way of saying it. It's like when I say Etat Padyam, this is water for washing your feet, or I say Padyam Samarpayami, I offer water for washing your feet. Two different Sanskrit sentences meaning exactly the same thing here. In this document, we have shown three different Sanskrit ways to say the same prayer, but the meaning is the same, okay? And the meditation has to be the same. So, Sanidapana, may you appear or be manifested in the presence of, right? Iha Sanidehi, Iha Sanidehi, after chanting the name or the Mula Mantra of the deity, right? The Mula Mantra of the deity, Iha Sanirudhaswa, Iha Sanirudhaswa, right? And show Sanirudhana, may you be restricted or confined here for the time being while I worship you, while I offer you worship. Iha Sakali Kuru, Iha Sakali Kuru, be complete or be full here, be fully manifest here, show the Sakali Karna Mudra. Then we do Anganyasa on the deity with the Mula Mantra or the Bija Mantra of the deity. Now, there are different ways of doing this. It's for Krishna. In the Hari Bhakti Vilas, it describes several different nyasas that are there for Gopal Mantra. The Gopal Mantra can be divided into 6 parts or into 5 parts. And there are different nyasas as to whether you use this to divide them into 6 or to 5. So that's a completely different discussion. But here let's just look at a simple Anganyasa of the deity, not considering whether we're using Gopal Mantra or some other mantra. Whatever the Mula Mantra is of the deity, let's just say it's the Mula Mantra of the deity. It's made of 3. It's made of the Bija and the name of the deity in the case and Namaha. Let's just say that. So Ram Radhikai, Swaha, whatever it is. So then we would just break it up twice and we'd have those six different actions. So, Hridaya Namaha, touch the middle of the deity's chest. Sirse Swaha, touch the top of the deity's head. Shikaya Vasate, touch the deity's tuft or sika. Kapachaya Hum, touch the deity's shoulders. Netrabhyam or Netratriaya, if you're thinking about three eyes in the deity, and touch the different eyelids of the deity with the different fingers of the right hand. And Astraya Pate, doing the astra around the deity, like that. Bhurbhavasavahadi Bandaha, also snap around the head of the deity. Now, the thing is, if you look at my Avahana mantra video, you will see how to do these mudras on the deity or in front of the deity without actually touching the deity. So you can do that also. If you want to do it without touching the deity, you can do that also. Or you can touch the deity, like that. Or you can use kusha grass or durva grass for Ganesha, some other sort of grass which is sacred to whichever deity you're installing. But we would say mostly a pavitra, a kurcha made, which is a magic wand made of kusha grass tied in a pavitra knot, and the tips are used to do nyasa on the deity. Okay, so that's what's done. Now, in the Hobalamat Anakam, of course, they show how to do it in the home, and they use the flowers or flower petals and tulsi for doing those sort of things. So, then Avaguntana, Amritikarna, Paramikarna. These are some other slight differences from the way we discussed it in the original way. Then Hari Bhakti Vilas 6:28 to 31 talks about meditating on the above mantras, meaning I invoke you, I install you with patient devotion. Oh Lord, I belong to you, I submit to you, I'm yours, right? I'm your servant. I pray to you to be present here to the end of my worship. I pray to you manifest your transcendental form, your full transcendental form. I pray to you to be enveloped here, to be manifest in your immortal form. The reason I wrote nectar here next to immortality, because immortality is amrita, non-death. So amrita also means nectar, but in this case it means immortality, your immortal form. I pray for you to manifest your excellences here, like that. Then off of Hari Bhakti Vilas 6, each case I've put the place from Hari Bhakti Vilas where I've taken these particular actions. 6:28 to 31, then 6:32 describes about Avahanam of the deity. This could be a very simple Avahana. Forget about all the rest of it and just do 6:32. Agacha and the name of the deity. Agacha Sri Krishnaya Namaha. Very simple sort of invocation. Then the following are the sloka, are the slokas. Normally, when we're just offering different mudras, we would chant along with the mudras. Normally, mudras are not shown without mantra. We do the mantra and chant the mantra and show the mudras at the same time. So here are the verses. Hari Bhakti Vilas 6:35 to 40 that give the names of the mudras which are to be chanted at the time of the mudras. Avahanim stapanim cha, tatanam sanidapinim, saniroda karim chanam chanyam sakili karanam param, like that. So these are all the names of the mudras, specific mudras. And then there are other, these are the mudras written out. So the Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma, Musala, Sangha. If you look at my video on my YouTube channel, it will show all of these, most of these mudras. Some of them were specific to Krishna and specific to Hari Bhakti Vilas. And also the Gaudiya Sampradaya may have a slightly different way of doing some of the common mudras, which we can go over in a different time. Okay, so now we have Hari Bhakti Vilas 644 showing some other mudras which are also shown. Or it could be that these are alternate mudras which are shown. So because Hari Bhakti Vilas is not a prayoga, sometimes it shows 2 or 3 different ways of doing the same thing. Even with installation of the deity in chapter 19 of Hari Bhakti Vilas, it shows 2 or 3 different ways of doing an installation. Slightly different. The common thread, the basics are the same, but the details are a little bit different. So here we have also some in 644, some alternate mudras and the mantras that go with them. And then we have, as I said, this explanation from Mantra Mahodari. I haven't gone into explaining this because this was a draft document, And I did it, and people seem to be happy with it at the time. If we want to continue and make this document more complex and more exacting, or give more translations or explain more parts of it, we can definitely do that. But at this point, I have no plans to do that, because nobody is even doing what I have done here. If somebody does want to do that, just let me know, and we'll continue. We can do more understanding of it like that. Mostly, I think people in their daily puja are not going to do Buddha Shuddhi fully. They're going to probably do the simplified Buddha Shuddhi that's done in the Gaudiya Mata ISKCON. And even many Sri Vaishnavas in their house, they don't do the Buddha Shuddhi. Very few people, but Orthodox people do it, of course. And it doesn't take that long. You can do it in a minute or so. And in the temple also, it can be done quite quickly, even though it's much more complicated in the temple. And so we can certainly do that. We can write out the temple Buddha Shuddhi according to Padma Samhita. We can write out I've given the Buddha Shuddhi there for Gaudiya Vaishnavas from Hari Bhakti Vilas. And we can also talk about the home puja. We can also go have another lesson if people are interested in the home type of Avahanam and everything of the Murti. Well, we can go through books like Panchakala Kriya Deepa, which is a Pancharatric system. And also we can go through the Ahobalamat Anikam, which gives step by step on how to do it in the house or in the mud. So I'm not sure if there's any questions or comments on this. Otherwise, I think we can sort of leave it there. And exactly how to do it, once people, I would suggest read through this document, create a system for yourself. The first system should be probably learned. If you're going to do a complex system, learn the first system first that I've given at the top. And then once you've done that, if you want to adapt and you want to continue and you want to do it in a Hari Bhakti Vilas way or some other way, let me know if there's a particular text that you want to follow. If it's not Hari Bhakti Vilas, if it's Nasimha Paricharya or Kramadipika, which is probably almost the same as Hari Bhakti Vilas, or Sharada Tilaka. We can do it according to Sharada Tilaka. I'm pretty much, I could probably make prayogas from all those. I even have a Kerala, a book on Tantra from Kerala, which also, because they say in Kerala they follow Narada Pancharatra. So there's a system, they do it in Kerala, a little bit different. So I've got that also. So whatever way the research people want to go in, if you let me know, we can follow that. But so far I haven't done further research more than this. And again, this is separate from the installation of the deity, which is done first. So once the movable deity or the Cala Murti is installed, then these are all the things that happen in daily and in festivals, and whenever the deity is worshipped, the Cala Murti is worshipped, this should be gone through. And again, if you want to not do all this complicated and ritualistic stuff, if you have love and devotion, if you simply use the Mula mantra of the deity and call the deity either in the vocative or dative case, and expecting to be there, do a simple meditation upon the form of the deity that you're worshiping, it's enough. It can be enough. Okay.
So I would just have perhaps two short questions.
Sure.
To the whole thing. Well, now our deities were installed according to Padma Samhita. So, and now, of course, there is a mixture of ISKCON style daily worship and, them being installed according to Padma Samhita. But
do you want to worship them according to Padma Samhita?
I mean, now the question is about Avahanam, because Avahanam was done according to Padma Samhita. So perhaps at least.
Okay. The installation is done according to Padma Samhita. According to Padma Samhita, if you should build a temple, you should install the deity in the temple, You should do all of the things according to Padma Samhita. And so the Kriya and Charya sections of Padma Samhita, all the festivals, everything is done according to the same Samhita, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unless it isn't mentioned in that Samhita, which is very rare for Padma. Unless some festival or something isn't mentioned, then we go according to Padma Samhita. That's the normal system. However, if you're worshiping according to different sampradaya, different sect, a different thing, then you can decide not to worship according to Padma Samhita. For instance, Sampakumar Bhattacharya installed the deities in ISKCON Hyderabad according to Padma Samhita. That's for sure. That's absolutely for sure. He has installed deities in different places for ISKCON devotees and things. The deities in ISKCON Bangalore were installed. The big Bangalore temple were installed according to Padma Samhita. Some deities in ISKCON Bangalore, the Krishna Balaram, were installed they got Madhva priests. The Madhva priests would have installed them by the book by Madhva, which is called Tantra Sa Sangraha, which I also have. And it's a slightly different way of doing things. So yes, I've seen a lot of deities installed a lot of different ways, and I've also seen in ISKCON that they don't necessarily stick to the way that they've been installed for their daily worship. So don't feel that you have to follow Padma Samhita for the way. In fact, Padma Samhita, the way of installing deities in Padma Samhita should be done for deities in a temple. Whereas if you're worshiping deities in a house, there should have been a house style installation, right? Well, I don't know. I'm not sure. I didn't do the installation, but whatever. I don't know what Amara did exactly, but whatever he has done, he can tell you whether he installed them according to what prayoga exactly, according to what samhita, what thing he did. But in any case, whatever he did, the point is we can do a Vahanam in our own way, according to our own sampradaya. We can do Hari Bhakti Vilas worship, we can do Archana Paditi worship, we can do Pancharatra Pradeep worship, whatever standard you're following, or you can make your own standard using, again, references to Hari Bhakti Vilas, references to Pramadipika or Nasimha Paricharya, or whatever text, whatever bona fide text there is out there. That's completely up to you because it's your own personal worship. So as long as the procedure is based upon a bona fide scripture, the Lord is going to reciprocate. So I don't think that necessarily has to be one or the other. I mean, maybe there's some other people who would disagree with me and say, no, if you do this, then you have to do that. But I think it's not like that. As I said, if one has love and devotion, one can just simply call the name of the deity and worship him. So obviously, slight differences in procedure are not going to make the whole thing not bona fide. It's going to be correct if we follow the scriptures in certain ways. So again, when you're in a situation where you probably have to do other worship as well, it's not the only worship that you do. You're going to the temple and worshiping. You're also doing your house worship. So you have less time, and you should definitely think about doing a procedure which is more simple. The way you can do complex procedures, again, is if you start to introduce a complex procedure, you can start by introducing bit by bit. And then finally, as you learn it, just like when we learn Sandhya Vandana, we don't immediately know all the mantras and everything. We have to read something. After we do it every day, 3 times a day for a few years like that, we don't have to read the book anymore. So it's the same thing with puja or any complex ritual. So you decide. There can be so many different ways of doing this, slightly different, and especially a procedure should be written for your own deities, because you have different deities. I don't know exactly what deities you have and how you worship them now, so therefore it has to be. I can certainly suggest some procedures and some ways of going about it, but ultimately it's up to the person who worships the deity to adopt any procedure according to the way they want to worship their deities. Because the main thing that we should remember with worshiping the deity or worshiping God in any way is that we should not let the ritual, the complexity of the ritual, get in between our meditation on the Lord and our service to the Lord. If it's hindering us, if the rituals are hindering you from thinking about Krishna, thinking about worship and actually being in the proper mood, then you should do less rituals, right? If however you are able to think of the Lord, and at the same time you're able to show me so many mudras, and if you're able to still think about God and do those things, great, then you can follow the Shastra as much as you like and as much detail as you can handle. But it's like, like some people, they're driving a very simple automatic car and they don't have to do anything. They just push the accelerator, they push the brake and steer with their hands, and that's all they have to think about. And then somebody else wants a big sports car with 13, 14 different, gears, and, he wants all this sort of complicated system. He can have that if he wants. And if he drives that every day, it's not any more difficult than the person who's driving the very simple thing. The point is to get from one place to another place. Right. The guy who does it in a complex way, the guy who does it in a simple way, they both get to the destination, But if you think I can only drive to Berlin by using a very fancy car and a very, has to be this sort of thing and everything like that, and you crash and you never get to Berlin, right? So if you do rituals, that are so complicated that you forget all about Krishna and you just crash and burn, what's the use of that? So better to make everything very simple and very in the beginning, so that you keep the right mentality. And if you feel you want to add more things, you add them. So that was, I think, one question that you had about the installation of the deity according to a certain procedure. Should we then follow that procedure? I can show you the general procedures. That there are some very simple procedures, even that are Pancharatric, that Sri Vaishnavas do in their house. There are some very simple procedures. But then there are more complicated procedures. There are very simple Gaudiya procedures also. There are very, very complex, even more complex than Sri Vaishnava procedures in Hari Bhakti Vilas, which are Gaudiya procedures. So sometimes people get this idea that the Sri Vaishnava is more difficult and the Gaudiya is more simple. That's not at all true. There are simple and complex procedures in every sampradaya.
Right.
So you just pick a form that you want to do, and then pick your level of complexity, which you're comfortable with, and which you can do in a reasonable amount of time that you have to devote to that.
Right. And now the question, because we are using also in ISKCON this Uttishta mantras. So where would this fit? Where could I?
Uttishta?
Yeah.
Uttishta.
Yeah. Should this be like, if I want to chant this, also should I chant it after Avahanam? There is also this so Savadabra Karuna Bhagavan Vivrida Prema Smitina Nambu Burukam Bijimba.
Yeah, normally this is done in a temple. This is done in a temple. But in the house, what we do, in the house, they have a thing in the Sri Vaishnava house, or in any modern Indian house, Hindu house, they'll have a puja room or a puja cupboard. So they have it closed, and Sri Vaishnavas call it Koil Alwar. It's the Koil means temple and Alwar means the saints are in there along with God, right? So before opening, we say the Suprabhatam, but the Suprabhatam isn't really addressed to the movable deity. Maybe the Shalagram is there, right? And we can say, wake up the Shalagram. But the Cala Murti hasn't been invoked yet. So we're not really waking up the Cala Murti. Now in the temple, the Cala Murti is the Murti in the temple has been put in a bed, but the Murti in the temple is invoked from the permanent deity. So when we say wake up, we're really saying wake up to the permanent deity, or the Shalagram, or the permanently installed deity. Otherwise, if we say Uttishta Govinda, which is the normal Venkateshwara Suprabhatam starts with this, all the Suprabhatams start with this. Then we're thinking of God, wherever he is, please wake up, you know. We're thinking he should wake up. So we can think, yeah, let God please wake up. He's sleeping, let him wake up. And then after he wakes up and he's ready, please come in and be with us in the deity here. And then we'll wake him like that. We don't necessarily have, we can, I mean, I'm not saying it's wrong if you have a bed and you want to take your deities and put them in bed. I'm not saying you can't do that. You can. And you're saying, so what would you have to go through all this procedure before you even wake them up in the bed?
No, I mean, it's there in each Gaudiya Mata or ISKCON Prayoga. At least, no, I learned the temple worship style, and it's there. So I don't know if it is kind of imitation of Avahanam, or is it? You now explained it's something else.
What people are doing is why are they chanting? Why are they chanting these prayers outside the deity room? Why don't they chant them inside?
I don't know.
I mean, God's everywhere. That's why. Yeah. Because right now I'm not in my puja room, but I can chant a mantra. I can pray to God. So I'm praying. I'm thinking that God, just like in Sri Vaishnava Prayoga, like I said, there's this Kurmadin Divyalokam Taramanimayam Mantapam Satrashesham Tasmin Dharmadipitam Taruparikamalam Chamara Grahinischa Vishnum Devi Bhushadmurgam Paduke Vainateyam Senesham Dwarapalan Kumanamaka Vishnu Bhaktam Prapadye. Vishnu Bhaktam Prapadye. I surrender to the Vishnu Bhaktas who are worshipping God eternally. Oh, Vishnu Bhaktas like Vainatya, like Senesha, like Vishwaksena's Senesha, Vainatya's Garuda, like all these people, Shesha, who are there in Vaikuntha, who are eternally worshipping the Lord. The same thing in Goloka for Krishna. They're serving eternally the Lord. I pray to you, Vishnu Bhaktas, please give me a chance to worship the Lord. You are always worshiping him. Please give me, half an hour so I can worship him, and then I'll give him back to you after that, to your care, like that. So that's our meditation. We say that's our dhyanam in the beginning of our puja. So we're thinking the Lord is there. He's there, and he's doing. Then we think, let him come here, like that. So, but if you want to put the deities in bed, if you want to do Uttista Govinda with them, you can then meditate that the Lord is, because, okay, let me explain. In Sri Vaishnava Puja, there's what we call 5 asanas or 6 asanas. Mantrasana, Shnanasana, Alankarasana, Bhojasana, Punamantrasana, and Paryankasana or Shayanasana. Shayanasana or Paryankasana is where the Lord goes to sleep. So that's a part of Sri Vaishnava Puja. And we only finish the puja after he goes to sleep. So all you're doing is you're putting the Shayanasana off till the next morning. So you're saying, oh Lord, please come here and stay here all night, because I want to worship you with a bed. I want you to sleep in this bed that I provide with you for you. And tomorrow morning I'll wake you up. So then you come and you think God is here and he's staying the night. He's not just coming for lunch. He's not just a guest that shows up for lunch. He's coming and he's staying the night. And the next morning I'm going to chant the mantras. I'm going to open the doors and I'm going to say, Uttista, Uttista, wake up Krishna, wake up Radha, wake up Gaunitai. And they wake up. After they wake up, valediction. That's the end of yesterday's puja. Then you do the Avahanam for this day. So if you want to include that, you do it like that, because the Sri Vaishnava system is you finish it all that day. But if you put the deity in bed, you're not finishing it all that day. And the thing is, in the temple, there's no finishing. It's eternal. It's going on. There's no beginning or ending in the temple. But in the house, the Sri Vaishnavas end it. They end it so they can go and they can have lunch. They do their puja. They finished offering the food. They finished Bhojasana. Then Payankasana, please sleep. And they give them hot milk that time, but it's only 10:30 in the morning. He's going to go to sleep. Okay, it's a little silly like that. And then I asked my Sri Vaishnava friends, well, what happens if you cook at night and you want to offer something at night? You have to invoke him again? But they don't usually do that. They usually just cook once a day. They cook once a day, and they sort of, they have some sambar and stuff they heat up at night, and they put, maybe if they have to make extra rice, they'll offer it in some way, but then they just add it. Or they take the leftover rice and mix it with curd and mix it with tamarind, and they make the varieties of rice they have in the evening because they don't have a full meal or something like that. So there's different things that people do. So according to what you do, if you expect God to be offered Paryankasana or the Sayanasana where he sleeps, then he has to be there to sleep. He can't leave after the end of the puja. You can't do the valediction at the end of the puja because you want him to stay and sleep. So then do the valediction after you wake him up in the morning. So if you want to do valediction, you don't have to do valediction. But just imagine and meditate that he's staying all night. And that's very nice. Meditate he's staying all night in the morning. Wake him up, right? This thing, I'll tell you another thing. In Sri Vaishnavism, there's a thing where when we do everything, we do what's called Sattvika Tyaga. So before we start a ritual and after we finish a ritual, we think God is doing this through me and I'm not getting the benefit of it and I'm not doing it. He's doing it through me. And we say the same thing in the beginning and the same thing at the end, right? So in the evening, the day is divided up into 5 parts, which are Abhigamana, Upadan, Ija, Swadhyaya, and Yoga, right? So the 5th one is Yoga. Yoga means mystic yoga, whatever, meditation, but it actually, at the end of that, is taking rest. You take rest and you think that your pillow is the foot of the Lord and you're resting your head on his left big toe and you're sleeping and you go to sleep like this. And then when you wake up so when you do that ritual of yoga, you say, Bhagavaneva Swarayamya Swarupa Siddhi Pavidi Swashesha Tekarasena Nina Atmana Karta Swake Stopakarane Swaradanaika Prayojanaya Param Purusha Sarvasheshi Shripati Shesha Bhutamidam Yogakyam Kamasaswai Swapriti Swayameva Karayati. Right? You say that in the night before you go to bed. I am going to now do the yoga, or he's going to do yoga through me. He's going to do, yoga nidra through me. Right? Then when you wake up in the morning, you say the last part. So the ritual has taken all night. The ritual has taken all night. So that's also there in Sri Vaishnavism. So similarly, you meditate that you put the deities in the bed, and then next morning you come and you wake them up, and that's also part of your service. And then your service is finished. Then your service is finished for the day or yesterday, right? You can't say that your service is finished until you wake up after you wake up the deity for the next day. And when you wake up the deity for the next day, he goes off to his Nitya Lila. Then when you want to worship him, you have to say, please come from your Nitya Lila. And please come again here so that I can worship you again. And please stay overnight again. So that's the way you have to think about it.
Okay, yes, because we made beds for them. So we are putting them to bed.
Nice. Beautiful.
Okay.
Beautiful. Yeah. So that's definitely there. But, if you look at a Sri Vaishnava Prayoga, they do the Paryankasanam at 11 o'clock in the morning, Yeah, we've done everything and we've offered the food and we do the Paryankasanam, put the shalarams back in the box, close the cupboards, and then lunch. And then that's it for the day. At home, at home.
Yeah.
Not in the temple. In the temple, of course, there's many, many, many offerings and many, many pujas throughout the day. And even in special occasions, you might do Tirvaradhanam in the house. You might do puja in the house more than once a day, but normally just once a day. So but it all depends on our meditation, and I can see the way that other people are worshiping the deity is they want to offer a nice bed for the deity, a nice sayanasana, and the deity, of course, has to be present to accept that. So we just think that the deity is going to stay with us until the next morning, and then we'll wake him up, and then he can go wherever he likes.
Okay, yeah, that's a new concept, a very nice concept. I mean, new for me.
Yeah, it's not new in Pancharatra. It's not new in Pancharatra. In the temple, it's always there. But we don't in the morning, the next morning, after we wake up the deity in the temple and we put everything back there, then we have to again do Avahanam. So in the temple, it's not new. In the house, it's new, because in the house they don't do that. In the house, it's like 11 o'clock in the morning, close the cupboard, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I can understand so more or less what we're saying is, in other sampradayas, especially in Gaudiya Sampradaya and maybe Ballavas and these people, they want to perform more worship of the Lord, and they don't want to just close the curtains in the house or close the room in the house and leave it for the whole day. They also want to maybe do some other things in the day. And if you want to wake the deities up in the afternoon, if you let's say you cook again. Let's say you cook again in the evening, right? Like that. You can put the deities to sleep in the afternoon. You can open them up again, and you can wake them up again. They're still there. It's the mentality. How long are you going to ask God to stay there? You know, there's some people, some Sri Vaishnavas, they're thinking, well, I shouldn't restrict God. I mean, he's getting, every second, all the time he's getting unlimited service in Vaikuntha. I don't want him to come down here and just be sitting around in the cupboard waiting for me to cook something, right? So I'll let him go. I'll valediction. This is why we valedict deities. It's not that we're saying go away, right? When a guest comes to your house, you want him to stay and you want to offer things to him and everything like that. But when you've finished offering hospitality to a guest, why do you ask him to leave? Is because maybe you're inconveniencing him for just sitting around. If he's just going to sit around and you're not offering him anything anymore, okay, it's after lunch. We're finished giving you everything, and we've given you whatever we've given you. Please sit here for another 4 or 5 hours doing nothing.
Yeah,
no, he has things to do. He has things to do. So let him go. So we're not telling him to go, but according to the other devotees, we have to think about also the other Vaishnavas, the other Nitya Suris, the other eternal associates. They also want to worship him, and by us selfishly keeping him here, I heard a very interesting definition of Kaivalya Moksha the other day. Kaivalya Moksha means isolation, but it can also mean that God is there and we don't want anybody else to worship him but only us. So we want a situation where we are worshiping him to the exclusion of everybody else. So some Vaishnavas, they have this idea that Kaivalya is a type of moksha where you exclude other people. But you can serve God. God is there. The Atman and the Paramatman are there, and you can serve him. But nobody else can serve him. It's very selfish. It's selfish bhakti, right? That somebody has this much intense love of God that they want to only serve God to the exclusion of letting other people serve him. But we don't normally feel like that. We normally feel, he can do whatever he wants. Let him decide who wants to worship him and how many people with time. So, but anyway, it's an interesting Vaishnava take on the word Kaivalya,
Yeah, today we also had a thing that we were traveling with our deities, and we had to leave them in the car, and it was very hot. So we were also thinking, perhaps we were supposed to do Visarjanam, because otherwise he has to bear this heat in the car.
Yeah,
like this.
Whatever mostly our meditation is the important thing like that. If we, of course, Krishna, the flames, don't mean anything to him. He can walk through flames. He can bear whatever. If we meditate that he's bearing that. But if we also think, this is uncomfortable for him, then we shouldn't offer it to him. So that's up to everything's a meditation, and we should only do things if we meditate on this, if we see something that we're going to offer and we don't think it's the best and we don't think it should be offered, then we don't offer it. Like that. Krishna may accept it anyway. Some other person may come and offer that thing and with love and devotion, and Krishna accepts it. but we may think, oh, there's a defect here in this, so we don't want to use that, you know. And the other person may think, no. The very great saint Purandradas, was it Purandradas or Kanakadas in Udupi, he was so poor he had nothing to offer to the deity, so he was making idli, which is just a steamed rice cake like that, and when you make the rice, there's liquid starch which is left over, so he was offering in broken coconut bowls pieces. He was so poor, and he had this coconut bowls, one with the idli in it, simplest food, right? Just rice, steamed rice. And in the other, some of this liquid starch that comes from when you boil the rice as a drink. And he was offering that to Krishna. And inside the temple, the swamis of the Madhva Mats, they were offering unlimited, you know, auspicious, fantastic, opulent prasadam to the deity. And Krishna turned around and made a crack in the wall, because this person was an untouchable Sudra. He was outside. He couldn't even enter the temple, but because of his devotion in offering this simple food, Krishna turned around, broke the wall so he could have darshan of his devotee. And from that time on, as well as all the opulent foodstuffs, they offer a simple idli, and they offer this starchy rice water also to Lord Krishna in Udupi Krishna every day. They have to offer this because they feel that this is the offering of Kanakadas and this is his devotion, like that. So same thing, you know, somebody, or there was one person who peeled the bananas and gave the peels to Rama, and Rama accepted it. Like that. Who's going to eat the banana peels? But it's the love and devotion that he accepts. So if we feel the deity is inconvenienced by being in a hot place, then we arrange for the deity to be cooled down. Or we can put the deity to, if it's a temporary deity, we can put the deity to sleep for that time and do Avahanam later. Like that, if we don't have to. And a lot of times when people travel, they just take the shalagram with them and they close their deities and leave them at home. And then they travel with the shalagram and do puja the shalagram, and when they come back, they open up the deities again. They don't take big movable deities or a lot of deities with them. You just take the shalagram and go. So it depends, you know. I know people who travel with lot of deities, many deities, lots of shalagrams, few shalagrams, one shalagram, one deity, picture of a deity. I mean, there's so much variety. So you decide according to your devotion and according to your situation how you want to do it. It's unlimited how you can do all these things, and the details and you have to find what is good for you. Whatever, we accept everything favorable and reject everything unfavorable. So if it's too complicated or if it's too difficult to do, then think of a way to do it in a more simple way and more devotional way. That's the most important thing. The most devotional way is the best way.
Yeah. Very good. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you for waiting until the end. Everybody else went and did something, and it's really late for you there, so I'm going to finish here. And if you think of any other questions, just let me know. We can do more. If you want to do another thing about the Ahobalam mud, the way they do it with tulsi and flowers and do the Avahanam, you know, the deity, well, we can go through that too. It's there in the Ahobalam mud Anikam. Yeah, we can go through that. It's interesting, but I think.
Yeah, I'm just not sure about if I have this Prayoga Gaudiya Vaisnava Prana Pratishta, because there is one Smarta and Gaudiya you sent. Is this the same or this is different? What you showed?
Yeah, it's the same thing. It says Prana Pratishta Smarta and Gaudiya, and it should be October 30th, 2018, because there's another one to October 25th. And obviously, the later one is there may be some mistakes in the earlier one. That's usually why I update them. Yeah. Okay.
Good. Thank you. Namaskaram.